Another deadly industrial disaster in China, this time at a coal-fired plant in the city of Fencheng in northern Jiangxi. Over 5 dozen workers buried under the debris as concrete slabs and scaffolding came crashing down these massive cooling towers. Rescuers battled through the day for possible survivors. The power plant at Fencheng is just one of many projects commissioned by the government as China aims for greater global economic and industrial muscle. Some reports say China gave the green light to over 200 coal power plants in 2015. But the scorching pace of such works is coming at a cost. There have been a spate of industrial and mining accidents, including the massive explosions at Tianjin port that killed over 170 people, and the collapse of a gypsum mine in Linyi that killed many miners last year. Nearly 90 people were killed when a man-made mound of construction debris at Shenzhen collapsed and hit 33 buildings last year. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang has ordered an investigation and promised stern action against those responsible for Thursday's power plant accident. A message on his website said China will strengthen supervision and preventive measures and prevent such a major accident from happening again. Shortly after the explosions at Tianjin port last year, the director of the State Administration of Work Safety was removed. He was later charged with corruption. During his trial, which ended on Thursday, he admitted to taking bribes and gifts worth $4.12 million. Was it corruption again that led to the deadly accident at Fencheng now? Bureau Report, WION.
We're joined by Atul Aneja from Beijing. He is the Hindu's China correspondent. He's on the phone line with us. Atul, thanks so much for speaking with us on the phone. To what extent does this latest incident reflect sort of lax safety and environment standards in China?
Well, safety and environment standards is a work in progress in China. The pace at which China is industrializing is so frenetic and so fast that numerous projects are being undertaken simultaneously in all parts of the country. But you can see that generally there's a pattern, and I'm not talking specifically of the accident which took place in the Jiangxi province yesterday. But generally, the coal mining areas, the old industrial belt of China, which is being revamped. I mean, that's the site, the northeast China, which is more prone to disasters, because it has this old steel mills and coal mines, which were in use mostly in the 50s and 60s during the early phase of China's industrialization. So that has become outdated, and whatever happens there, especially coal mining accidents, take place in great frequency, specifically in that belt and in central China.
Right, so, Atul, as you're...
If you take them... Yeah, sure.
Yeah, as you're pointing out, like you're saying, this isn't the first time that we're hearing of such incidents when it comes to coal mining in China. Is this then a problem of implementation of stricter laws, or are the laws themselves a problem?
No, I don't think that the legal regime in China is weak at all. It comes to personnel and negligence. For example, your report mentioned the Shenzhen accident which took place in December 2015. Now, a huge pile of waste had accumulated. Now, there are certain protocols which need to be followed which are stipulated, which were not. And when the rains came, it resulted in a huge mudslide, and which buried people in industrial park and led to deaths of 69 people. So it was not a question of regulation not being there, but it was the implementation of the regulation which caused this massive accident. And then you again find this other incident which took place in Tianjin, again in August 2015, when 173 people died. Now, there was a chemical plant, a storehouse, a warehouse for chemicals, which was not supposed to be built in a built-up area. But this was a norm that such plants should not be there in a built-up area, yet this was a violation of the norm, and that resulted in a huge explosion, a massive one in Tianjin, which killed 173 people. So it's the lax implementation of the laws which is predominantly responsible for such accidents, which take place with certain amount of frequency in China as it steps up the pace of its industrialization.
Right, Atul, when it comes to Xi Jinping, he does have a no-nonsense reputation when it comes to corruption. There has been a significant crackdown on that issue. But like you're saying, these stories do come up at a regular frequency when it comes to China. Is there some sort of dichotomy at play over here that on the one hand, we have the Premier being strong when it comes to cracking down on corruption, and yet we do see these laxity causing situations like this time and again?
You have to understand that China, despite the impression which has been created outside, is not that centrally controlled anymore, except for the broad strategic lines which go from Beijing. There's a lot of autonomy which local provincial authorities have. And there is a race among them to prove that economic development is taking place in their provinces. Now, that's where the problem arises. Because of this competition among the provinces to show results, which is another demand comes from the top, as a result, there is so much of haste that the basic norms of safety are ignored just to get the figures right. So this is another problem which doesn't, ironically, not because of centralization in China, because China is decentralizing and giving more autonomy to the provinces and is demanding from the provinces that economic growth does not lag behind a certain level. So this is another problem which is causing the laxity of implementation of the norm.
All right, Atul, interesting points there that you've brought up for our viewers in terms of perhaps the reputation that China has globally is not really reflected in the way things function on the ground in that country. On that note, Atul Aneja, thank you so much for joining us here on WION with those details and your perspective on that story. We really appreciate your time. On that note, we are going to take a quick break here on Gravitas. We'll be back with more on the other side. Stay with us.